You know, when you learn the secrets to hitting your irons flush, it becomes really easy. You look forward to hitting that mid-iron out of the fairway because you know you're going to hit a good one, and most of your playing partners are going to struggle hitting those shots. Now, I've put together 3 of my all-time best videos that are going to share with you some of those real secrets to hitting crisp irons. Let's go ahead and get started. Hey guys, great to have you here, and today we're going to talk about how to really get these irons pure. And one of the biggest problems that I see with solid contact is just basically stopping the body and throwing the hands of the ball. We all struggle with it, but a lot of times we don't know what we're exactly supposed to be doing to fix this problem, to get that great forward shaft lean, to get the club releasing in front of the golf ball. How do we actually make that happen? That's exactly what we're going to go over in this video. First, let me show you one that would be an incorrect iron swing, where basically I'm stopping my body. If you look at tour players, when they come into contact, their hips are going to be at least 45 degrees open, somewhere in that ballpark, right around there. The shoulders are going to be either square or slightly open. If I actually look at my square shoulders, so if I look at my shoulders appear to be square, that should probably be pretty close in this camera angle. My left shoulder is really protracted there. So if I'm looking actually from this face on camera, my left shoulder is protracted. If I take my left shoulder back and I look at where my rib cage is pointing, it's actually pointing in front of the golf ball too. And this all goes into what we call the straight line release. So as I'm releasing this club, I want it to release in front of this golf ball. I have forward shaft lean at contact. I release that club out in front. And the way that I can do this is to get my hips and my shoulders opening up as I'm coming through contact. You can imagine just like I was going to take an iron and just throw it right down the fairway. So if I grab an iron, I'm going to open up to where my hips and shoulders are opening. I'm just going to toss this iron right down the fairway, just like that. Probably wouldn't recommend doing that. You might break a club, but that's a sensation that you're having. Opening the body and letting that club release in front. The golf ball is just getting in the way. That's all that's happening. So how do I do that, and what does it look like when I'm not doing that correctly? The incorrect swing is going to be when my hips and shoulders stay more facing to the ball. The only way to keep the club moving forward from there, number one, I'm not going to be able to get the forward shaft lean, and number two, I have to push my club across my body. So my body's not leading the way anymore. If I keep pushing that club, I can either fold my left arm. That's where the chicken wing comes from. So if you're chicken winging, that's what's happening. The body's slowing down. You're pushing the club across your body. Or number two, if I don't get the forward shaft lean, I'm not even worried about that. I can go ahead and flip the club, and now my club flips up very quickly, and I get that negative shaft lean. The club's almost leaning back at contact. So that's the good way and the bad way. Now let's talk about what's the sensation that I want to have if I'm going to do this correctly. So I like to start out with just tossing a few golf balls. This works for iron swings, works for driver swings, even pitching. If I'm going to toss a golf ball down the fairway, if I just ask you to toss one this way, the first thing you're going to do is open up your body, and you're just going to toss it in that direction. Everybody tosses the ball the same way. They let their body open, and they just let it fly right down the middle. I tossed 3 of those balls. They're all within a couple feet of each other. Now, what would happen the other way, the wrong way? That's the right way, letting the body open, tossing that club down the fairway, ball just gets in the way. The wrong way would be me staying closed, getting very focused on trying to hit this golf ball. I'm keeping my body closed, and now I'm doing that, and I'm trying to throw the club or throw the ball across my body. Not going to be very powerful when that's happening. So do a good 15 or 20 of those. They look kind of goofy. Sit in your living room and toss them into the couch if you need to, but just get used to opening that body up. The second piece of that now is let's go ahead and do the same thing with our club. I want you to grab one. Again, you can do these from your living room. Let's make some fluid, smooth practice swings, getting that same sensation of tossing that ball down the fairway when that's happening. A lot of times people ask me, how do I know how many of these I'm supposed to do? Well, just keep doing them until you get comfortable. As soon as you're comfortable, you're ready to move on to the next piece. This final piece is going to be coming down where we're out on the golf course. And what I want you to do is start out with some smooth swings, some 9-3 swings. I'm going to switch to my iron. I'm using for this video, this is called the Voice Caddy Swing Caddy 2. So people ask me all the time what I'm using in the video. It's a fairly inexpensive radar, very accurate for getting your club head speed and your ball speed. And it's pretty cool. So I got that down here today. I'll put a link down below in the description. I always get asked where you can buy these things, but I'll put it down in the description below this video if you guys are interested in that. And let's go ahead and put this to the test. We've opened the body. We've practiced doing that with a swing. Now, how do we do this in a real golf swing? Let's go ahead and make a half back swing And then from there, I want you to really exaggerate getting that body to open up. Now there's a few key checkpoints when you're looking at your video. So if you're videotaping your swing and you're checking that, I first want to look at the obvious ones, which are let my left or my right heel lift a little bit up off the ground. If this heel stays down, look at my hips. If I let my heel come up, my hips open. As I put the heel down, my hips close. So that's going to be the first checkpoint there. Right heel comes a little off the ground. At contact, your hips are going to be open. And then the last piece of this, your right arm has to be a little bit more bent. So if I'm casting the club, what I'm doing is I'm extending that arm and I'm throwing the club with my right arm. Notice how my elbow pit is dead locked straight and that club is leaning backwards a little bit. If I get this, and you'll see how my hips are closed too. As I rotate on open, the more open I get with my body, look how this arm stays a little bit more bent now. I'm a little closer to the ground and to the ball also. That's where you can get that forward shaft lean. You also notice how my left arm feels like it's across my chest this way. If my left arm is here to the side of my chest, then what I'm doing is I'm not opening. I'm staying square and I'm pushing the club. That's that chicken wing. When you chicken wing, that left arm pops off the chest. So left arm against the chest, right arm a little bit bent. Do a few more practice swings when you get to the driving range, practicing that, just feeling like you're brushing the turf as you're doing that. So again, the checkpoints are right heel comes off the ground, hips are open, left arm across the chest, right arm a little bit bent, and then that's when you're gonna get the forward shaft lean. Now from here, we've got these key checkpoints, we've done the practice swings. Let's go ahead and do about a half back swing and really feel like we accelerate on through this shot. There we go, I feel like I really opened up on that one. My radar said 88 miles an hour of club head speed. I know that was probably a little past halfway back, but I really wanted to exaggerate in these short swings, opening up more and more. So I'm gonna try to swing a little bit faster than that this time. I'm gonna go a little farther back, and again, I'm gonna really exaggerate opening up and accelerating through that golf ball. So a little bit more than a half back swing on this one. There we go, that felt really nice. Great acceleration, 96 miles an hour club head speed. And then finally, the reason I'm starting slow here is I want to get comfortable with slower swings and then I can build up longer and longer swing. So start out by working on these positions slow, gradually get longer and longer with more club head speed. Finally here, the last one, let's see if we can get the 7-iron almost up to 100 miles an hour club head speed. That would be pretty good. I think PGA Tour average is low 90s or so. So this would be really nice if I could get this body opening up, really accelerating on through there with some good forward shaft lean. That's about as good as I'm gonna do. I don't know if I made it or not. Yep, 101, so pretty good club head speed. Again, that Voice Caddy 2, really nice. They sent me these, I've tested a lot. There's a great little device to work on your club head speed as you're swinging. So work on that drill, slow to fast, hit those key checkpoints. Man, you're gonna really be compressing the golf ball. Now we all have heard how the pros have a perfectly flat wrist coming through contact that helps you to compress the golf ball, it helps you to get your forward shaft lean, it helps you to really start hitting some solid iron shots. But let's find out if this is you. Let me ask if you have a couple of these symptoms to see if you may be flipping the golf ball. Now obviously if you videotape your swing and you see yourself with your club shaft straight up and down, your left wrist is breaking down, maybe the club first starts to split your forearms right over top of the golf ball, you're going to be in the flipping category. We're going to talk about how to flatten out that lead wrist. But if you haven't videotaped yourself, do you find yourself having to tee the ball up on the perfect piece of grass? If the ball is sitting down, maybe it's a tightly mown fairway, maybe it's not setting up just right, you find yourself kind of moving the ball around back and forth until you just get it 1 millimeter higher than the normal lie that it had to try to give yourself any margin for error that you can. Odds are if you're doing that, you're probably flipping with your lead wrist, flipping your hands a little bit too early in the swing. Also, if you find yourself hitting what feels like a good shot, I mean, you look down, it's on the center of the face, but it's just not as solid as you hear some other players hitting the ball, then you may be flipping then also. So if this sounds like you, I have a perfect remedy for this. We're going to talk about one really big misconception of holding the wrist flat that could be hurting you and causing you to flip. Let's go ahead and get started. One of the biggest things you could do wrong to make sure that you start to flip a little bit and get tight and lose lag is trying to keep this left wrist dead tight and flat the entire swing. Some people will buy special gloves that have a little thing that locks your wrist in. Those don't work. We've tried them. They didn't really help. Some people will try to stick a ruler on the back here. It's good for feedback. You can kind of at least give you an awareness of when you're flipping the wrist, which can be a little bit helpful. But again, it kind of impedes how you're doing things and you end up flipping there. All kinds of crazy tricks to try to get you to stop flipping. But what if I told you that you're actually supposed to flip? The more we can flip this wrist, the flatter it's going to be at contact. Now I'm going to get to that here in a second. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but let me walk you through first what happens when we try to keep this wrist tight. If I try to lock my wrist in, keep it tight, wear the special glove, do all that kinds of stuff, what's going to end up happening is as I go to the top of the swing, when my wrists are tight, I'm going to tend to cast a little bit. When I start to cast a little bit from the top, now all of a sudden my club is outracing my hands, so no matter what I do, I end up kind of flipping through contact and my left wrist breaks down. So the tighter I keep my wrist from the top of the swing and in the backswing, what's going to happen is I'm going to be more and more likely to flip. Let's go ahead and try one out. I'm going to try to really lock in my left wrist, keep it flat, and let's see what happens. Yeah, so I could definitely feel myself flip there. Didn't feel very solid, even though I hit the center of the face. It was kind of clunky because I added a little bit of loft to that. And the reason is, again, it's not what's happening down here. It's that when you get tight with your wrist, you start to cast early and that club starts to outrace the hand. So no matter what you try to do at contact, once the momentum of that club starts going, it is way too late. There is not much you can do about it. So the proper way to do this is to actually let the wrist go. Now, this is what I call kind of a wrist snap. If you take your left wrist and you bend it back towards your body, where your palm of your hand's towards your body, that's what's called wrist flexion. Now, if I do it the other way, that's called wrist extension. In the golf swing, the wrist is doing this. It's actually going, it's letting loose. It's the timing of that that makes all the difference in the world. If I can come down halfway in my downswing, I'm gonna have this wrist a little bit bowed, or at least perfectly flat. And then as I come through, that wrist is gonna release up. It's actually gonna fold back up. We'll get to the details of that here in a second. This isn't just for golf though. This is a universal principle. Anytime you're swinging a stick at a ball, the same thing's gonna be happening. If we take a look at tennis in the backhand, you look at the pro players, as they start forward, this would be their lead hand if they're hitting a backhand. As they start forward, the wrist is gonna bow this way. You see it gets a big bow in it when we're looking at this slow motion of the wrist of Novak Djokovic. And then as he releases that through contact, you're gonna see how that wrist is nice and flat. So it's going from bowed to flat. Now in golf, we don't go quite this extreme, but I use tennis as an example because it is a little bit more extreme. You can see how that wrist bows and then snaps forward to go flat. In golf, the same thing has happened. If we take a look at Tiger Woods, we'll see how his wrist is flat coming down. It doesn't have to get that much bow as we talked about there in tennis. But as he releases on through and his hands come up past his shoulders, look at that left hand. You'll see that thing is almost bent 90 degrees. So he's really letting that wrist release. If he was trying to hold on that entire time, he would have casted, flipped through impact, and then it would be way too late. Since he doesn't mind if those wrists release, he's gonna let that release in front of the golf ball. The wrist is flat coming through contact. Now I have a great drill, a series of drills that I'm gonna lead you through now. We all see how this is happening. Let's go ahead and ingrain this in your own swing. Now the first drill I want you to do is to get used to letting the wrist bow and then flip as you release past contact. Now that's the real key here. We don't want that wrist to flip prior to contact. We still want to let it go, but it's happening after contact. So there's contact, and then I'm letting that hinge up after I make the swing, or after I come through contact. So think about hearing or feeling that wrist come on up as you're about chest high in the follow through, just like we saw with Tiger Woods. So the first piece to this is going to be letting that wrist feel like it bows. Now if we're going to do that, I need to feel like I turn the club handle like I'm turning it, twisting it around itself, the handle there. You notice how that bows my lead wrist. So if I come about halfway back, I bow my lead wrist, I'm gonna feel like the logo of my glove is down toward this ball. And then as I come through, I'm gonna go ahead and let it be flat as I'm coming on through here. And if I go a little farther, I'm gonna go ahead and let that hinge up. So just some little mini swings, some mini practice swings, feeling like I let that wrist bow. Big angle on the wrist there, right hand on top, logo down, and then as I come on through, I'm gonna let that fold up as I'm coming up here above my chest. So we're kind of going from bowed, letting it release to flat, and then going ahead and folding up. If we're looking at the right hand here, the same thing. The palm of my hand is bent back, is facing the ground. As it comes through, it goes flat, and then as I come on up, I let it release on around. So do a few of those to get really comfortable with this. Now, you may not be quite convinced how this is going to add power to your swing, but think of it this way. If I was to take the back of my hand, like I was going to backhand something, and I was going to have it locked in stiff and not let it really release. If I was to push into something doing that, I really can't get a lot of power doing that. Now I could hit something, I could probably smack it pretty hard, but it wouldn't be the full amount of power. Now imagine I'm gonna let my wrist bow and I'm really gonna let my wrist flick as I'm doing that. Now as I do that same thing, we can hear the difference there rather than just pushing into it, getting a pop into it like that. So I'm letting that wrist speed add to it. Same thing in the golf swing. I'm adding not only the momentum in my arms, but adding that wrist speed to let the club accelerate. That way you don't have to be big and strong. You can take advantage of the physics of this and get more speed, not being the biggest, strongest guy. So do a few of those swings, and then I want you to go a little farther back and actually hit a golf ball. So a little farther back, let the wrist bow, and then I'm gonna let it release as I'm coming up here. Really check to make sure that wrist is cupping up as you're doing that. So I'm flipping the wrist, but not until after contact. There we go, nice and solid. I took what felt like a 3/4 swing there, and I got that ball all the way to the green with my 8-iron. So that was about, let's see, that actual shot went 152 yards with just a nice, easy 3/4 swing with the 8-iron. That's a lot of that action is coming from the wrist. Now another great training aid for this is a really simple one. It's called a tactic, and all this thing is, it goes over your wrist. Got a little piece of plastic in there that snaps. And if I put this on, what we're gonna see here is that it makes an audible sound, but it doesn't happen until after the swing. So you can see this little tab is on the back where my logo of my glove is, and if I let my wrist bow, there's got some space between that and my wrist. As I let my wrist cup, or I flip my wrist, now all of a sudden it's gonna make a little click. You can hear that happening. So this is gonna give you audible feedback now to where I can tell when I'm flipping my wrist. So if you tend to set up with your hand like this at a dress with a cup there, you're gonna notice, oh, I gotta get my hands way forward to get this not to snap. So as I set up from there, this hasn't snapped yet. I should be able to go all the way to the top of my backswing. Even in my downswing, I feel like I'm gonna create a little space there like we talked about. And then I'm gonna, from there, let this go and snap up. Now I hear that snapping right around here somewhere. So I shouldn't be hearing that until I'm about, again, chest high in the follow through. But the key is, once I get to impact, I want to feel like that's happening as quickly as I can. I want to get that, that pop, that snap coming through there. So let's go ahead and try one here with the tactic. You don't have to have this. This is just a good example of why it's not a good idea. It's okay for feedback in the backswing and the downswing, but it's not the best idea to say, okay, I got to lock this wrist coming all the way through. If I do that, that's kind of like me locking my wrist and trying to push through my hand like I talked about. You're not going to get that snap of speed. So let's go ahead and get this set up correctly. And let's listen for the tick coming through into the finish. There we go. So me, I don't know if you can hear that on camera, but for me, I felt like that snapped right around in here, and that was a pretty solid shot. So again, with this or without this, you can still do the same drill. Now last piece here, I want you to focus in on your right hand. And again, we talked about that right hand covering the golf ball. I want you to feel like as that right hand releases, it goes from bent back to flat. This is what we call the straight line release. As I come through contact, I want my right hand facing down, and then from there, I want to release my right hand and get the wrist perfectly flat at about a 45-degree angle in front. So make a couple little half back swings, wrist bent back, and then I'm going to really release that coming on through. Get that same sensation for 4 or 5 swings, and you're going to go ahead and really get the full power of your swing on these. There we go, so nice full swing on that one. Let's go ahead and see what the distance said there. So you notice with the half swing, I was even getting 150. That one's gonna be a little farther, about 160 or so probably. Yeah, 160 carry, 163 after it rolled out a little bit. So get those wrists to add some speed to that. That's gonna help you to get the most out of your swing where you don't have to be a big, strong guy. You can still get some great distance. Hey guys, great to have you back. In this video, we're gonna go into a lot of detail. Some great follow-along drills to make crisp, clean contact with your irons. Now, 3 things need to happen if we're gonna hit those irons solid. Number 1, we need to have a good weight shift. Number 2, we need to have good rhythm in the swing. So even if I'm making good positions and I don't have good rhythm, good timing, then I'm gonna struggle hitting solid golf shots. And number 3, our contact with the ground needs to be really solid. I need to be able to hit the ball first and then hit the ground just after that time and time again. That's really going to help our consistency. So I got a lot of drills. We're going to work through several drills that are going to help you to do that. Let's start out by talking about how we're going to move our body to get a weight shift and where the positions our body should be in. So what I've done is I've set a ball up here where I would be hitting with an iron shot, and then directly in front of this, about 2 feet in front of that would be the middle of this first towel, and it's in front of the golf ball, and then about 4 feet to the center of this second towel. So from my ball to the center of this towel is about 4 feet. From my ball to the center of this towel is about 2 feet on this side of my golf ball. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a club across those shoulders, and I'm going to break it down and make sure that you get a great weight shift, a great turn, and really load up those shoulders in the backswing. So that's going to be crucial to getting a fluid swing, to getting a lot of power. We got to make that good turn. We call in the top speed system a power turn going back, and a power turn as we're finishing our swing. So I'm going to put this club across my shoulders, and first I'm going to stand this level with the ground. So if I was going to turn my club this way, it'd just be like a helicopter blade turning parallel with the ground. Now from there, I want to go ahead and rotate, shift my weight a little bit to the right, where this club would now be pointing directly to the camera. So my weight is now shifted a little bit to the right, inside of my right foot, but I'm still just turning level with the ground. So that would be kind of pointing out to the front edge of that towel. Now from here, I'm going to tilt my shoulders down until my club is pointing toward the center of that towel. That's keeping me in posture. So now I've forced myself to shift my weight to the right. If I was to drop this club, it would land kind of right here on the inside of my foot. And then I'm also going to tilt down so that I stay in my posture. So I've gotten a weight shift and I've tilted downward. So that's got me in a good weight shift to the right. I'm in a position where I can now shift my weight on through to the front foot. Now if you're a very flexible person, if you're PGA Tour player quality, we can go ahead, turn that instead of to the camera all the way to the middle of that towel and then tilt down. Now I've gotten this really big turn with my shoulders. I've really loaded up and we'll be able to get a lot of speed that way. So regardless of whether you can get to the front of the towel or the back of the towel, we're still focusing on having those shoulders pointing down to the towel at the top and getting that weight shift to the right. So whenever I do drills, a lot of times I'll show incorrect movements. Maybe I'll show a reverse weight shift so that my weight's going back here in my backswing and then falling away in the downswing. It's almost impossible for me to get good solid contact when I'm doing that. I'll hit some behind the ball, when I hit in front of the ball, it's all over the place. So making sure that we get those shoulders loaded up correctly as we're going back, that's going to really be important to making consistent contact on the way down. That's the first part of the weight shift. Now as we come on through the ball, here's the top of the backswing. Now I'm going to come on through and my shoulders will slightly steepen up a little bit. So at this point, my right foot's off the ground, my right ankle, my hips and my shoulders are all in alignment if we're looking from this angle. And now my club, I'll go ahead and stick it out this way so we can see a little bit easier, is going to be pointing down toward this front towel. So anywhere in there is good. So this would be kind of me standing up facing the target. Now I'm tilting down and this towel is going to be a little bit closer because our shoulder angle will steepen up slightly. So if I took away, let's actually take away the club now, do a good 10, 15 reps. Pause this video right now, do a good 10 or 15 reps and hit those two zones going back and going through. Once we come back, now what we're going to do is make that same shoulder turn with a golf swing. So in my backswing, there's my shoulder turn pointing to the towel. In my downswing, follow through. Now I'm going to be about right here when my shoulder turn is pointing to the front towel. Go ahead and do another just about 10 reps or so you get comfortable with that. Now once we're comfortable with that, I have a feeling for how to get my weight to shift and for how to stay in my posture. From there, let's go ahead and move the ball. And I'm going to just do about 10 swings coming back and through, and let's make this nice and fluid and rhythmic. So as I go back and through, I was only going to here before, I'm going to go ahead and let it come all the way on around to where I'm facing the target. So let's do another 10 practice swings. Nice and easy, nice and slow, trying to rotate our shoulders, make a weight shift to the right, make a weight shift to the left. So if my club stays in those zones, now all of a sudden I'm very consistent on how I'm coming through the swing. I'm going to be able to hit the ball really clean. So that's the first piece of it. If my weight shift is good, then everything else can work on top of that. Now, this is great for building just the positions of the swing, but you're not going to have a ton of rhythm if you're doing that. Now, rhythm is a big piece of this, and really what rhythm boils down to is I need this club to accelerate right at the bottom of the swing. If I'm accelerating quickly from the top, what's going to happen is, let's imagine I'm casting a little bit. Now I've spent up all my energy back here. As my club reaches the ball, it's going to feel very light in my hands. It felt very heavy when I was accelerating halfway in the downswing, but as I came to impact, I really don't have anything to get that whoosh or that speed coming through contact. The club's going to feel light, and I'm going to feel like I just can't tell if the club face is open or closed. So I got a great drill for you. I'm going to grab, if you have a jump rope at your house, you can go ahead and grab a jump rope, and this is, imagine this is a full-size jump rope. If you're jumping rope, the only place the rope is really accelerating is right when it's going under your feet. You have kind of a snapping that you do with your hands to get that to whip on through, and then it just kind of coasts the rest of the way around, and then you snap it again. So it's all happening at one point. Same thing in the golf swing. I want that all to be happening, boom, right at the bottom. I don't want to be snapping the club back here or too late, dragging it through. Some people will do that. I want to get that snap from the ball right on out in front. So a good way to feel this is if you have a jump rope or a piece of rope that's got some weight to it at your house, spin that around and see if you can get that to kind of snap right at contact. So this isn't golf swing, I'm just spinning around almost like a Ferris wheel, straight up and down, and I want to get that to snap right at the bottom. So I'm trying to get a lot of speed with that. You can even do it with your left hand. It's a little counterintuitive, but as I start getting that to whip on through, I'm getting the acceleration in the right spot. This isn't going to directly translate over the golf swing, but this is going to get you a feel for when am I trying to get the speed in my swing. Once we've done that, let's get that same feeling, that same snapping action happening, coming through the ball with my golf swing. So now if I'm rushing hard from the top and I'm really trying to hit it hard from back here, I'm not going to be able to snap down at the bottom. I want to be nice and soft. I want to be able to gain some lag, get into that maximum power position when you're halfway down. And then from there, as you go to the straight line release, that's when you want to snap that club on through there. As we're working from contact to the straight line release, that's where that snapping action is happening. So if you're following the Top Speed golf system, you know that we're getting a lot of lag here, and then I'm releasing that on out in front. So I want you to go ahead, make a couple more practice swings just beside the golf ball and do the exact same thing. Nice and smooth, but we're actually going to get that acceleration feeling just in front of the golf ball. So same thing I'm doing with my hands, or my shoulders that I was working on earlier. I'm just going to tie that into a nice fluid feeling swinging through the ball. Now, our last piece here, we're going to work on clipping a tee out of the ground and making sure that I get that divot either at the tee or in front. And we're going to tie it all in together. So the first part, I got to get my shoulders loading up, back and through. Second part, I'm getting that kind of acceleration at the bottom. That's a big piece to it. And then lastly here, I'm going to clip this tee out of the ground. So you'll find, just by paying attention, let me go ahead and do this incorrectly one time. I'm going to go ahead and hit behind the ball. Well, when I look down there, I could even put several tees in a row. Let me grab that other tee again here. Grab a bonus tee. That tee was about right there, or here in the middle of my divot. So you can line up 2 or 3 or 4 tees in a row and practice getting that divot happening in front of those tees. I'm only teeing those up about 1/4 inch off the ground. You can see I'm clipping that tee first, then hitting the ground. So it seems a little bit basic, but you'd be surprised just by having feedback there, having 6 or 8 tees in a row and making those practice swings, just how good your control gets of where you're hitting the ground. You do that every day for a few weeks, and you're going to get really good at clipping that tee out of the ground and getting that good contact. So let's tie it all together now. Now at this point in the swing, you should be a good 60 or 80 swings in. So if you haven't done your practice swings, be sure to do those first. Go through all these drills that I talked about, and then we'll be able to build on that. So once we get the ball here, we'll go ahead and put a tee in the ground there so we know where our divot is. Let's actually do this. I'll put a tee right there, and I'll put my ball just inside. So if my divot happens in front of that golf ball, I'm gonna know I had pretty good contact. So good shoulder turn. I'm getting that acceleration to happen at the ball, and that divot's gonna be in front. Let's try it out. There you go, guys. Divot started right at the tee, came out in front. I know I got good contact. So this video is not just a, watch it once and you should be able to perfect all the drills. Work through those drills, do them several days in a row, and you're gonna get a better feel for it. If you're struggling with that iron play, a lot of these drills are gonna help with that. Getting that shoulder turn, so crucial. Getting the snap at the bottom is crucial. And then we gotta hit the ground at the same time. So work through this several times in a row, and you're gonna be hitting the ball a lot more solid. Good luck to you guys. All right guys, hope y'all really enjoyed this video. If you did, I got an awesome bonus for you. We all want lots of lag in our golf swing. It's so crucial to have tons of lag to be able to get that high club head speed and to be able to drive it past your friends. I'm going to play a preview from one of my most important golf lag videos. If you're on a desktop device, you can go ahead and click the link that pops up on your screen. If you're on a phone or a tablet, you go ahead and click the iCard and you're going to get instant access to that video. Plus, you're going to get instant access to 5 videos from our Top Speed Golf system. Good luck to you guys. Go out there and rip the ball. All right, so let's jump right in to one of my favorite videos I've ever done on lag, one of the ones I've seen the best results with, and we'll talk in a minute why this is called pirate ship, but it's really a play on a wide, narrow, wide drill, or a wide, narrow throw drill that I've done in the past and have tons of success with. So if in the backswing my club head kind of at parallel to the ground was, say, a good 5, 6, maybe even 7 feet away from the center of my body, in the downswing it's much closer to my body. That's the narrowing part, because I have this big angle of lag. And then I throw all that out in front, really let those arms extend, and I go wide again. Now, a lot of times, I'll see players misinterpret this drill, and they take a really good drill that's having tons of success, and they do it the wrong way, and they really struggle with it, feel like a lot of hands and arms. So if you've done this drill in the past, and you feel a little bit out of sequence, you feel like your hands and arms just aren't working right, I bet this is exactly what you did. So when you're going wide in the backswing, that's all good. Most people get that correct. You really got to rotate the body. But when they narrow, the misrepresentation that a lot of players will have is they'll narrow up the arms, not the club head that we want to narrow, but they'll misinterpret this drill as narrowing the arms, and they'll do something like this. I want you to think of your arms as a pirate ship. Here's what I mean by that. You've probably been to an amusement park before where they have one of these big giant pirate ships. Everybody's packed on there in these seats. And then the pirate ship is down at the bottom. There's a big arm, and then that arm starts swinging back and forth just like a pendulum, right? And the ship goes back and forth. Well, the cool thing about this, so you can relate to your golf swing,